Universe Maker's first scroll. Please view the description for trigger warnings to make sure this is content you're comfortable with. Chapter 12. The dust cleared enough that Raffi lowered the cloth covering his mouth. He was smiling. Hannah shook her head and had to smile. His nose and mouth were dust-free, but it still covered his head and eyes and made him look like a little furry bandit. The coughing stopped and Hannah heard movement. Hannah braced herself and looked toward the sound. What would the little jerk try next? The guy was covered in the same layer of dust that covered both herself and Raffi. He had glasses setting on his nose, a similar layer of dust coating and blocking his eyes. Hannah squinted. He looked familiar. He used his arms to pull himself from the ground and set his heavy frame on a ledge. He took a handkerchief out of his back pocket, took his glasses off, and started wiping them with the handkerchief. Hannah instantly knew who he was and flinched. Her science instructor from last year, Professor McCullen. She would have never expected him to act like this, but he wasn't at school anymore and he most likely didn't recognize her. Most people act differently when they think there are no consequences or when they are under a lot of stress. Put both together, and that made him very dangerous. Henna stayed completely still and silent. If memory served, he was completely blind without his glasses and wouldn't be able to see her until he put them back on. Raffi, can you hear me? She called out in her mind without looking away from the science teacher or moving her mouth. Yes, Hannah, he confirmed, sounding excited and happy. Hannah closed her eyes in relief. I don't think it would be a good idea if our new friend knew we were on talking terms. I told you we should have left him with the animals in the first place, he scolded. Raffi, Hannah scolded back. Right then, Professor McCullen started to laugh as he settled his glasses back on his nose. He looked at the mountain of dirt and stone that blocked the tunnel. Take that, you little bit! He turned as he spoke and saw Hannah before he could finish. Beast! You awful beast! He yelled to cover. Okay, you were right, she admitted. Ruffy started chirping again. Hannah turned his head into her shoulder to muffle the noise and started to pat the dust off his fur. Her left arm was still too painful to move, but she felt Ruffy's little paw there and a warming sensation. Her arm would be fine very soon. She looked up at her professor and smiled. I know, right? They totally deserve that. She played along, hoping inside that none of them had been hurt. Rafi patted her shoulder. Don't worry, Hannah. They would have felt that the earth was about to move and ran back out before the shaking started. Oh, yeah, of course. Hannah remembered how horses acted before a tornado hit and the loud noises the animals made just before the shaking started. Are you okay, miss? The professor's words knocked Hannah out of her memories and back to the present. She looked up at him. His face looked concerned, but Hannah wasn't buying it. Oh, I think so, she answered, feigning confused trauma, trying to portray a confused and helpless female. He pushed himself away from the rock and moved toward her. Hannah watched him closely, forcing her body to stay relaxed but preparing herself in case he tried something. Again. He walked over to where she was sitting against the tunnel and extended his hand. Let me help you, he offered. Hannah moved her arm slightly to test it before she extended it. No pain left. Was it broken? She asked Rafi when her hand settled in the good professor's. Yep, but it's fine now, he confirmed. Hannah didn't even flinch when he yanked her to her feet. She also kept a tight hold on Rafi. Crazy place, eh? He asked. Hannah could feel him trying to fish for information. Hannah made her eyes go wide with fear and wonder and nodded. I know, I just don't know what to make of it all. There, that should give him nothing. How did you get here? He asked, trying to look concerned, but his tone was thick with accusation. Oh, I don't really know, she continued to act flustered. I was just wandering the halls at school and woke up here. It was a lie, but she wasn't about to give this guy the truth. Plus, they both had somehow been transported into a strange place and gone through seemingly impossible tests. Her story wasn't outside the realm of current possibilities. His eyes narrowed at her. So you go to the school. Do I know you? I hope so, she made up. I'm one of the new scholarship students. After getting to know him better, she hoped that would make him discount her. He nodded his head but kept a suspicious eye on her. Hannah noted the slight lip curl when she mentioned being a scholarship student, indicating he felt disgust. It worked. He turned, his hand swinging toward the still open end of the tunnel. "Shall we see what's coming next?" he offered, with his hand extended in front of him to have her go first. Hannah successfully kept her eyes from rolling. What a coward or idiot if he thought she was going to walk anywhere with her back to him. "Oh, no, would you be willing to go first? My friend is a jumpy little thing and he likes to keep his eye on strangers," she attempted as an excuse. Professor McCullen's face tensed in confusion. Hannah realized Rafi's face was still turned into her shoulder, no eyes on the stranger at all. Hannah thumped Rafi on the back with her thumb. He immediately turned his head around and hissed at the teacher so angrily it nearly made her jump. It definitely made McCullen jump and make a high-pitched yelp. At first the surprise helped Hannah look concerned. She quickly pulled Rafi back, adjusting his hold on him so that his head hit her mouth, and the fact that she couldn't help laugh at the look of terror. Her laughter came to a sudden stop when he reached for the bag that hung across his body, and it gave a distinct clanging noise when it moved. She remembered the weapons he'd been holding when they first saw him. She hadn't seen any along the way, meaning he must have brought them with him and carried them in that bag. Yeah, there was no way she was going to turn her back on him. From the look in his eyes, he wasn't about to do it either. How were they going to even make it out of the tunnel, much less the object? Kicking yourself for saving him yet? Yep, Hannah confirmed, trying to figure out how to suggest they walk side by side without sounding suspicious to him. When nothing came to mind, she just smiled at him innocently and waited for him to go first. He didn't move. Neither did she. His hand stayed on his bag. Her innocent smile stayed on her face. "Hold steady, Hannah. I can feel him worry about getting to the object in time. He's going to crack soon," Raffi advised. Hannah took a deep breath of relief but didn't let it show on her face. She followed Raffi's instructions and just waited. Moments later, Professor McCullen let out a frustrated growl. "I think this tunnel is wide enough that we could walk together, at least through most of it," he finally offered. "Oh, okay, if you think that's best," Hannah returned, hoping her act made him feel she was no threat. That way, if he did make a move, he wouldn't feel the need to use excessive force and she'd have a chance to stop him. She moved slightly closer to him and waited until he started to walk before she moved again. They walked together for several feet before she realized he was moving slower. A few more moments and he slowed again. Hannah resisted the urge to roll her eyes. The guy was already trying to break their agreement and get behind her. Hannah turned toward him with concern in her eyes. "Professor McCullen, do we need to stop? I know with your unhealthy weight, this must be very hard for you." Hannah knew she hit the right words when he stiffened and sped up. "I am in the best shape of my life, young lady. You just try and keep up." And with that, he was on a power walk pace. At least it looked that way for him. His face started turning red pretty quickly and his breathing came faster and louder. Hannah hid a smile as she walked a little faster than her normal speed and was able to keep up with him just fine. They continued together as the tunnel turned and wound its way along. Hannah glanced at him as often and casually as she could to check on him. Every time she glanced at him, she noticed he was much more obvious with how closely he was watching her. She felt him near a couple of times, but it was always followed by Raffi hissing, and he'd back away quickly. Hannah tightened her arm around him a little, grateful for the 100th time that he was with her. Their time was almost over. She hadn't even thought of what would happen to Raffi after this was done. Did he get to go somewhere nice? Would she ever get to see him again? Hannah felt her throat tighten as she fought back the feeling that she was about to lose something that had become very important to her. Without even realizing it, she hugged Raffi closer. He returned her gesture by patting her arm. "It's going to be okay, Hannah," he soothed. "What will you do when this is all over?" She voiced her sudden fear. "I don't know," he confessed. Hannah wanted to curse. That information didn't help her feel any better. Now, in addition to worrying about getting home and fending off a crazed professor, she was worried about losing her best friend and not even knowing what was going to happen to him. I haven't had a friend in a really long time, much less anyone I can trust. The regret and fear filled her mind before she could stop it. You think I'm a friend? He asked back quietly this time, almost timid. Hannah nodded her answer and felt Raffi lean into her shoulder a little more. Tears started to fill her eyes, and she let go of fighting them anymore. It was hard work to stop the emotions, and she was way too tired to even try. She just let the tears run, which was closely followed by her nose, and she just sniffed as she walked. She noticed a strange look from the professor. Allergies, she claimed, hoping it would make her look even more weak than she had before. McCullen nodded and kept walking, at this point practically wheezing. Hannah wondered if he would pass out before reaching the end of the tunnel. Could she really get that lucky? They rounded another bend and finally saw red light pouring through the round opening ahead of them. Hannah barely had a second to feel relieved that she wouldn't be in such close quarters with the deceptive professor. Then she was shoved hard into the solid tunnel wall beside her. She felt a hand grab her hair, pull her head back, and she saw solid rock jutting out from the tunnel. She knew he would try to smash her head into the rock, so she turned her head slightly at the last second. The maneuver changed the impact point just enough that it missed her temple and crashed into her cheekbone. It still hurt, but she was still alive and only mildly stunned. The same second of the impact, she made her body go limp and fall to the ground. Raffi jumped free of her before she hit the ground and hissed at the man. Hannah kept her eyes shut, playing dead, but she heard the distinct clank of the jerk's bag. Raffi didn't stop hissing. Raffi, I'm okay. Don't do anything that will get you hurt, she let her friend know. The hissing continued, but she didn't hear his little feet moving anymore. The clanging stopped also. Stay there, Professor McCullen commanded. You don't have to die too. Just stay there until I get that thing and you'll be fine. His words were followed by quick, heavy footsteps that sounded like they were heading towards the tunnel's opening. Hannah stayed where she was, didn't move, tried to look like she wasn't breathing until the footsteps were completely gone. Just to make sure he didn't see that she was still alive, she stayed still and waited until she felt Raffi's paw on her arm. Cautiously, she opened her eyes. Raffi was looking back at her, his eyes concerned. Hannah smiled gently. Did that surprise you? Raffi smiled back and shook his head. Quiet chirping came from his mouth. Hannah pushed herself up to sit at the side of the tunnel. Me either. Lucky for both of us, he really does hit like an old lady, she laughed. At least that was the kind of force he'd used. Her plan paid off. If he had thought her any kind of threat, she was sure she wouldn't have gotten off so lucky. As it was, her cheek was throbbing painfully. Raffi's hand went to the side of her face. The pain receded quickly. She was going to miss him. So, what would happen if I just let him have the object? She asked, hoping the outcome wouldn't be horrible. You would be stuck here, alone. Professor McCullen would go back to your planet with limitless power. I'm sure he'll use it wisely. Hannah knew he was baiting her, and it worked. She still scowled at him as she pushed up from the wall. Picked Raffi up and settled him into her makeshift shirt sling at her side again. Once she knew he was settled and safe, she started toward the end of the tunnel. Dr. Miller landed hard. She let out a grunt as she crumpled to the ground and nearly lost the hold she had on her gun. When she got back to her feet, she stilled, went silent, and listened. Nothing. She heard nothing. Maybe the others weren't alerted to her joining the game. She breathed out a sigh of relief and slowly straightened to look around. She was somewhere dark and dirty, and rocks seemed to surround her except openings at her right and left. A tunnel? That crazy portal dropped her in a tunnel? With weird glowing stones set in the walls? What the hell direction was she supposed to go? Finally, Dr. Miller heard a noise somewhere down the opening to her left. Her head shot in that direction. Another noise sounded. Someone was moving, and the sound was coming from there.